dive bomb ending.
Always appropriate.
Oh, so rock and roll.
What's up, everybody? How we doing? Hello to all our awesome Guitareo members, all the folks watching on YouTube. Nice to see all of you hanging out with us today. My name's Kent, those don't know, and of course...
This is Ayla. Tesler-Mabe right here. Do I get a whistle sound effect? Oh, that's so wonderful. That's a new addition. I love that. Our name pops up with a whistle sound. I guess because we're the coaches.
I guess so, yeah. Amazing.
That's awesome.
Amazing. We got lots of members watching. I see Susan, Tony, Matt, Iris. Nice to see y'all. Asbestos Penguin, Lucas. Man, everybody's here. Eugenio's here too. Great. Fantastic. All the folks watching on YouTube, feel free to throw some stuff in chat too. Always nice to hear from you guys too. Before we get going, today we're talking about rock licks. So we were playing some rockin' stuff earlier. So and a lot of times you get told to learn riffs and licks on guitar. Maybe you buy like a guitar book that has a rock lick in it, like maybe that book, right? Like our Guitareo survival guide. We include lots of licks and riffs that you can check out, which is actually included with our membership right now. Membership offer, those on YouTube. Definitely check that out. We got a really great sale on guitareo.com where you can get this book for free. But you might get a book like that and you might get a bunch of licks and maybe you don't know what to do with them or like how to learn them. So in this live stream, we're gonna talk about that and kind of applying what we call the number one rock lick, because it's the first one in this book, it's number one.
Yeah.
So we're gonna start talking about the lick itself. It's a really common rock lick. I think we both threw it in the opening solo there.
I'm sure it's somewhere. Even if we weren't teaching it in this lesson and, had it on our minds, I'm sure we would have thrown it in anyways. It's 100%. That common.
Yeah, I use it all the time. Yeah.
For sure.
If I'm playing any kind of rock and roll, it's gonna sneak its way in there.
Oh, for sure, it's essential. And what is the lick? What is it, Kent?
The lick sounds like this.
It'd be cool if I unmuted my tuner. And slower, it still sounds cool. So, we should probably teach it, right?
Absolutely, it's really important. Step one, learn the lick, right?
Yeah.
So we've got some tabs that can magically appear on the screen. Ooh. Whoa, there they are right there.
You did that, Kent.
It's crazy, I know.
Good job.
Okay, excellent. Well,
we should learn how to do that in jazz school?
I did, yeah. That's day one of jazz school it wouldn't be tabs. Tabs are no in jazz school.
True.
Yeah.
Written notation.
Yeah. Conjuring up notation.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. Okay, all right, let's break down the riff. Enough banter. It starts with a full step bend on the 7th fret of the G string. Now, why are we starting there? Well, we're in a minor pentatonic. Mm-hmm. So everything we're about to learn comes from that scale. That's why you bend on that 7th fret of the G string, a whole step, and then you end up with your first finger barring across the B and the high E strings. But you don't simply play the 5th fret of both of those strings, because, my E string is out of tune. You end up, both of the notes ringing out, but you want a cleaner sound. How do I do that? Well, as soon as I play that B string, I'm releasing pressure enough that the note stops, but I'm still keeping my finger there because I immediately follow this by kind of rolling over to the 5th fret of the high E string. This is a great move to get down. And you probably recognize this lick if you listen to rock music because it's used everywhere.
It really is.
Yeah, getting this move down is super helpful.
Yeah, and that roll alone is such a great thing to work on. An awesome technique. That's a cool part about learning some licks is sometimes gives you like a context to work on a specific technique rather than just isolating the technique by itself. You're trying to learn this little piece of music, this little 2-bar thing, but you're working on this new skill which you can use to learning future songs, future riffs, anything like that. I find it's like way easier to get these techniques down with this approach.
So you're basically killing 12 birds with one stone.
Yeah.
13. And 13 birds with one stone.
Crazy.
We counted that. And yeah, even if you're not a rock player, I think Kent kind of just summed up why it's really helpful to try learning stuff like this. But yeah, what do you do once you get this move down? You end up playing 8 to 5 on the B string. Now you can either pick both of the notes or do a pull-off. I think it's pretty common to come across this lick with a pull-off. But it's also great to work on it with picking. I think being able to do it either way means that you're never limited by technique. You can just choose what you think sounds better in the context.
Totally. And I saw a couple comments in the members chat already. There was one that said, is this just for electric guitar? No, this happens to be a rock lick, but you can absolutely do this on the acoustic. The bend might be a little tricky but on the acoustic guitar, but you can definitely either slide. So you can do 7, slide up to 9, totally fine for that first note. You'll get the same idea across. Or just, yeah, totally. You can just do that bend, slide from 7 to 9. Doing it like that. Yeah. Or just leave it out. It'll sound fine. And that's kind of where we're going to be going later on, is that you can have some variations that work. So if you're playing acoustic, you can't make that whole step bend because it's super hard. Doesn't mean you can't try this lick. It means you might have to, dig into some creativity to make it work. Try not to let the limitation of the instrument stop you from trying to get an idea across.
Yeah.
And then the other question that was in here from Jens is, does it matter which way you bend?
Oh, great question. Yeah, I think generally on the electric guitar, especially if you're on the higher strings, G string, B string, high E string, bending up is the way to go. You can, of course, bend down, but it's a little bit more awkward. And I feel like I only do that in particular situations when I want the sound of a downward bend with vibrato, which has a very unique character that you can't really get any other way. But other than that, it's just physically more awkward, and it especially would be hard in the context of this lick. It makes it really hard to get to that roll, whereas this feels a lot more natural. But yeah, it's a great question. And you know what? As you're learning how to bend, there's no harm in trying both ways. See what you think. Everyone plays the instrument a little differently, and I think it's worth just seeing how it feels either way.
I think most of the time when you see guitar players use either the first part of this lick or the whole lick, usually are going to be bending that first note like up this way.
Yeah.
Pretty rare you would see it the other way. But not that you can't try. You might like it.
Yeah, maybe you'll be the exception.
Yeah.
You'll be the trailblazer.
Exactly. We need more unique voices on the guitar anyway. So there you go.
True, Kent.
Starts with bending the wrong way. So.
Yeah. All right, let's finish teaching this lick. Let's put the tab back on
totally
screen.
derailed. Yeah, let's bring it back.
All right. How do we end? 7-5 on the G string. And then you land on the 7th fret of the D string. Now the timing, again, there isn't actually a right answer, because we'll touch on this more as you alluded to. You can start kind of adapting this lick to many other situations and your own sound and whatever. But if we want to play the lick exactly the way it's written on screen, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So I came in on beat 1. And yeah, that's how it would sit in the bar. But I actually think it's more common to hear it coming in later in the bar. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think the cool thing about learning these riffs is that you can kind of make them your own and wherever you want to start. I would start, usually you want to start with one way.
Yeah.
Really get comfortable with that, because then you really know the lick. So where Ayla started on beat 1, start with that till you get comfy with it, and then you can start experimenting, moving it around, kind of feeling it out a little bit more, as opposed to being really rigid. That comes with really knowing it. You don't want to be thinking about fret numbers at that point, or how to do the bend, or how do I do, that's the next step after you get a lick down. Yeah,
and I think that's kind of practicing philosophy. When you're learning how to do something, you're thinking about so many new skills at the same time. I always use this image of when you're learning how to make a left-hand turn when you're driving. When you're an experienced driver, it's as simple as, I need to turn left, I'll go left. Everything just comes automatically, and all the steps that you actually break apart in order to turn left just become a seamless turn left move. But when you actually break it apart, you have to, slow down, approach the stop line, check if there's traffic coming, make sure no one's doing anything crazy and coming from, behind you in an illegal way. You want to check around, you want to make sure your signal's on, all these little steps, and then you turn left, right? When you try to think back to when you were first learning how to drive. Similarly, when you're playing the guitar and learning a new lick, this lick, you have to think about bending, that roll move, which could be a little awkward at first. getting through the rest of the lick, making sure you come in at the right time on beat 1. So yeah, I think exactly what you said, long story short, don't start adding these new variables until you're able to feel comfortable with, a select few at first, and then
we were asking the members there to show it just a tiny bit slower, so you can definitely do that. While you're tuning, I can go nice and slow. I'll even turn the distortion off, so you can hear it. There we go. I'll play on the right key though. Okay, so it starts on the 7th fret of the G string. So, and you're gonna bend that up. Awesome, we got our lovely tab on the screen. So we're gonna bend it up a whole step. So that can be pretty tough to do, like that. And then we got our 5 on the B string, 5 on the E string. And that should kind of feel like one motion. So you're bend on the 7, 5, 5. You want to think of it as one little unit, those 3 notes. I saw somebody posting that's kind of very, very similar to the Johnny Be Good intro. It's almost that. It's really, really close.
Totally.
And so, you bend on the 7 on the G string, 5 on the B string, 5 on the E string. And then after that, you're just coming down the pentatonic scale. So you're going 8 to 5 on the B string, 7 to 5 on the G string, and then you're gonna end on the 7 on the D string. So that's the riff. So if you know your pentatonic scale, the good old minor pentatonic, fifth, the 5, 7, 5, 8, 5, 7, that one, all the notes are from there. So there's nothing outside of that. So again, bend on that 7, 5, 5, and then down the scale, 8, 5, 7, 5, and then 7, and that's it. So hopefully that was slow enough to catch some of the notes. I know it kind of can feel like it flies by. It's one of those, once you sort of know your pentatonic scale, you start to let these riffs kind of rip a little bit. It can come together really quickly once you have that scale down. It's a great way to work on your scale too. I think that's the nice part with learning riffs is this is an awesome way to learn your minor pentatonic scale.
Totally.
Give some context to it.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I've been the kind of person who's always practiced through just playing. I never really sat there with a metronome and just played up the scale like that whole thing. I would turn on a track or go to a jam session and I would just practice playing with the scale. And sometimes what that means is you're just playing around with the top part of the scale at first, just trying to come up with melodies in there until eventually you start expanding that to the whole scale. And then you become comfortable with all of it. That's just the way I personally practice, but of course there are lots of people who find, sitting with a metronome and just going through the scale is also an amazing way for them because it allows you to track your progress really well because, I mean, it's not often you can quantify things in music, but right. You can quantify. You can be like, oh, I was at 80 BPM yesterday. Let's see if I can push that further today. And you can actually keep track of that in a way you can't always with other parts of music.
Yeah, totally.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and I came from the practice your scales background, a very, very different background. So both are valid, whatever works best for you. So, I think getting it into music though is probably the most important part when you are learning a riff and trying to make music out of this stuff. I feel like that's always the final goal with it. So let's do that. So. We've got the lick together, right? So those of you who have your guitars at home, hopefully you were able to get that or get a quick screen cap of the lick, or you're already buying the book and getting your mail order in already. But once you get that lick together and you have the technical facility of that lick, you can play it, you know it. You're feeling good. Now you gotta apply it because that's how you really get to internalize this stuff. I saw a few people talking about Jimmy Page or sounding like Jimmy Page or Jeff Beck. I think somebody put Jimmy Page in the members' comments or members' comments there. Definitely, and it's very 60s rock to me. I think this kind of language. I suppose.
Dare I say 70s rock too.
Whoa,
60s and 70s rock.
Crazy. But yeah, so let's talk about where you would apply it. So in the book, we tell you what chords it works over. Usually, we told you it's out of the A minor pentatonic scale. So usually, the first bet would be some kind of A chord. In this case, A major or A minor. Let's say you're jamming with a buddy, I'm jamming with my buddy here, that we're playing over an A kind of thing here, and this lick will work awesome. And it's awesome just to throw it out, right? You've worked on it, you just put it in, and maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, that's okay. That's kind of the first step with getting it into music.
Yeah, so long story short, as long as you're in a situation where you can play a minor pentatonic, you can play this lick. And to be clear, you could use this in any minor pentatonic situation.
Totally.
Any key, but we're in A for now. So let's try this. Let's play the riff over chords.
Over an A. And if you don't have a jam buddy available to you, they don't have to play guitar. You could have a piano playing buddy. You could have a drum playing buddy. With chords is usually good, but you could also use like a looper if you're into that stuff. You could record it on your phone, just jamming, playing some A power chordy stuff. You could go online and find a really great backing track in the key of A. There's lots of options out there if you aren't, don't have somebody at hand to jam with. So,
yeah, totally.
But we can jam, so let's do that. So,
and I'm gonna make sure to turn my tuner off.
Nice. Good idea. Learning.
I am learning.
We're
slowly.
The worst is when that happens in a concert.
That's happened to me. It was supposed to be this epic moment.
It's always in the most epic of moments.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like a big
never
rock and roll moment, and imagine.
Just the most underwhelming guitar part ever. It always. I remember I was playing
Rite of passage.
I know, right? Yeah, we were doing Alone, the Heart song, and there's the big and my tuner was on, and it was just that's rough, so underwhelming. But it's okay. It happens. Anyway, back to our jammy jams. We're gonna do some A. I'm just playing an A, good old A power chord. I think that might be a good place to start.
Yeah.
A lot of you might be experimenting with those, so I'm just going good old 5 and 7 there. And you could do the extra if you're fancy. You could put the extra 7 up there and sound really fancy. This. There's many ways to play this. Whatever floats your boat, it's gonna work just fine. So we're just gonna jam on that. We'll keep it nice and simple. And then usually you're gonna wanna do these slow at first because it's gonna be a new thing, right? So why don't I play the chord and you try the lick out.
Sure.
And then we'll see if we like it or not, I guess. That's kind of the next step. You try it in music and go like, is this good or not good?
All right, and you guys can vote too.
Yeah, well, I'm curious if you guys like the lick or not.
So should I only play the lick or should I play anything around?
Let's start with just the lick and then we'll build into.
All right.
Okay.
Let's play it again. Yeah, third time.
Whoa.
I'll play the chord and you play the lick.
Sure. So I saw some people in the chat. I really love this comment from Jens here. It says, cool lick. It almost sounds like I know what I'm doing. That's how I feel when I play the lick. It's learning these licks actually sort of solves that problem. I know when most people are getting into guitar solos or they're like, I don't know, you listen to like Jimi Hendrix and you're like, wow, that's crazy. Why don't I sound like that? It's usually like these licks that start coming together and like you develop like a language behind it and it sounds like you know what you're talking about. And I think, learning these licks and putting them together, you end up sounding like you know what you're doing, and usually you start impressing people even though you're like, this is totally contrived at first. And later it might not be, but usually—
Fake it till you make it.
Fake it till you make it is a real true thing. I think it's kind of one of those things, the more you do it, you'll start naturally wanting to do it. You won't have to think about it as much. But the first step was kind of what Ayla and I were doing. So play a chord. It didn't have to be that. It could be backing track, whatever you decide works. You try that lick, see if you like it. And the answer doesn't have to always be yes. You could hate that lick and you say, well, I'm never going to play that lick ever again. I know I've done that. I have a list of the banished licks. But no, just kidding.
I want to access that list.
Right? Usually it's because it's too hard. That's usually. But yeah, anyway. But yeah, you could... so then let's say you decide you like it. We both like this lick. So then you got to figure out, can I loop this in with other stuff that I know? So we told you that this lick comes out of the minor pentatonic scale. So it's like, can I go from other notes in the minor pentatonic scale and then land on this lick, right? And so the reason that works really well is it gives you a sense of direction. Usually when people try to make a guitar solo, they have no idea what to do. This tells you exactly what to do. You got to do this lick at some point. And we know you've got the scale, so you can start messing around with notes of the scale and then bam, into that lick. And again, it's going to sound like you know what you're doing. So let's try it.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Okay. Oh, maybe I'll put some more distorted tones back on.
Yeah.
Felt really underwhelming being very clean.
But it was kind of tasty.
Oh, thank you.
In its own way. Yeah.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. You can go.
Okay. Right out of the gate, playing that lick.
Yeah, so some of you may have caught Ayla was snuck in that lick a few times, 4, 5, 6 times, and then several times, and then went up the octave. Those keeping score at home, the same pentatonic 5th fret, but up on. I always lose. My numbers are terrible after 12.
15.
It's kind of a mess up there
17.
for me. 17. Yeah, see, every guitar player, it's like a fog. After fret 15, it's kind of a fog to me with those numbers. My face is gone. It melted off. Oh no.
Love this guy.
But yeah. Okay, so you can see the other notes were pretty much all pentatonic. There were some extra bends and stuff, but that's cool. That's what you want to mess around with, right? And then you get back to this lick. It kind of centers you because you have this theme motif thing that you keep coming back to, right? And it gives you a sense of direction. Sounds like you know what you're doing, and it always sounds really good, like Ayla just did on her little solo there.
Thanks. You know what's funny? Because you mentioned using these licks when you're first learning how to solo to give you some direction, and you might not feel like you know what you're doing. And then I mentioned, fake it till you make it. Well, what's funny is when I think about the times when I was first learning how to solo and I was using these kinds of lick ideas to give me something to jump off of, and I thought I was faking it, and then I compare my playing now, where I feel a little more confident when I'm doing, and I don't feel like I'm totally faking it all the time. I wouldn't say, of course there's been a huge leap. I've been playing a couple more years now, but at the same time, I feel like this feeling of I don't know what I'm doing is much more like an internal feeling, more than anything else. I don't think people watching usually feel that coming from you unless you let it show, like you let that emotion of uncertainty show. Otherwise, I think in general, people are going to be like, well, this person knows what they're doing. It sounds good. Because as long as it sounds good, it is good. And I think people get caught up in, well, it felt too easy. I just took this lick I learned and it sounds good. I must be faking it. As long as it sounds good, you're not faking it. That's all music is. Mm-hmm. So something to keep in mind. And yeah, let's talk a little more about, adapting the lick to be your own thing. Because, I did play around with the timing of it a little bit. I wasn't always starting on beat 1. Mm-hmm. But there's so much more you can do. You can start sort of dissecting it. What's funny is someone in the chat on YouTube was like, All right, now play it backwards.
I like that.
I like that, actually. That's cool. Yeah, that's
Sick.
it. That's exactly it backwards. And, you know, that's an example of taking a lick that you know and doing something else with it.
Totally.
You use that idea to create something new. And you can dissect it. You could take just certain parts of it to create a lick. Or keep your tuner turned on. I mean, I think this is a sound a lot of people recognize. Take the first 3 notes of that lick and play them over and over again, and suddenly you're playing the most iconic 70s rock lick I think there is. That's like the beginning of the Highway to Hell solo.
Yeah.
So
Totally.
there you go.
Yeah, it's and it's a really great way to kind of like, I don't know, like have fun with it. I really like trying to work smarter, not harder. So like learning a million licks is really hard. But if I can learn one lick, like this one, and then maybe I just do the first 3 notes like Ayla was doing, all of a sudden you have a second lick out of your first lick that you can do. Then I can even go into the full one or anything like that, right? And you could even find other variations. You don't have to come straight down the pentatonic scale. Maybe you do something else. You know. Yeah,
I went somewhere else with it.
Yeah, and it's really fun. I think it's kind of like your start, and then you can go anywhere you like. Yeah. And then the other cool thing with some of this stuff is you can try it on other chords too. We do mention in the book some of the other chords that this could work on, so not just on A, major or minor. This lick can work in C, because those of you who know a little bit of theory might know that your minor pentatonic has a major pentatonic counterpart. Mm-hmm. And so you could actually play this over C as well. Yeah. And let's see how it sounds.
Sorry, that sounded really sarcastic. I like that pun.
Ayla's a big pun fan, so.
Oh, absolutely. I love a good pun.
Okay, why don't we do the same thing in C, but we're gonna play the lick exactly the same, the A minor pentatonic. We're not moving up or anything. It's just the home chord is different.
I mean, A minor pentatonic is the exact same thing as C major pentatonic.
100%.
Basically.
Yeah, the notes are exactly the same. So we're playing the same lick, just now instead of the A power chord, we're gonna go up play a C power chord, and we'll see if it works. So it kind of works. So now we've got 2 uses for one lick, essentially, which is nice.
Yeah. And, you know, another thing that's great is to trust your ear. Because, for example, I thought it sounded really good. And, you know, by the fact that you said it kind of worked, I think we're thinking the same thing. The note you land on is a little bit of a weird note. It doesn't sound bad, but it sounds like it wants to go somewhere else, because it's a little bit of an unstable note. But then you ended the phrase. This is the last time you moved up to the 5th fret of the G string. And so when you're moving these licks around to other places, you might find that your ear is telling you to change one note. And so like it definitely didn't sound bad to land there, but I thought it sounded even better when you did that.
Yeah, totally.
And I mean, that just comes from trusting your ear. Like, of course, if you know theory, you might understand, oh, you're landing on the 6. That's an unstable note. You want to resolve somewhere else. Melodies usually don't end on the 6, you know? But you can get all of that just with your ear, being like, hey, that note feels like it needs to go somewhere else. So I'm just going to try going somewhere else in this scale I know. It's as simple as that. You don't even need to know the theory.
Yeah, and sometimes it won't work, and that's cool, and you get to learn that too. Sometimes it's equally as important to know what doesn't work as what does work.
Totally.
Works. Grammar is hard. But yeah, anyway, whatever, you just experiment, have fun. I think a lot of people maybe feel boxed in sometimes with this stuff, or they don't know what to do. So I think use this lick as kind of your pathway through. I saw another comment that was talking about adding in like other guitar techniques like pinch harmonics and slides and all of that. Totally, you can absolutely add those in and make it your own. That's the beauty with learning short riffs like this. I think, you know, I had a teacher that was kind of like, if you learn really long riffs, it's easy to, you just kind of run them through verbatim, but these short riffs, like every like 2-bar riff you learn, there's a lot of room for experimentation without like going into brain overload.
Yeah, you know, it's, again, the working smarter, not harder situation. Make it easier for yourself. There's
Totally.
nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, totally, right? Yeah, let's try it. I'll go back to A. Why not?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and you can add slides, you know, you could slide. I'll play that right now. You know, you can add in, just get creative. And that's how you work on these. It's a great way to work on those techniques, trying to put them into these licks and stuff. That's how I think I've learned most of those, or like really gotten to know those different guitar techniques. Vibrato, pinch harmonics, slides, bends, hammer-ons, pull-offs. It's all from really like this kind of thing.
Yeah. And I mean, what's the point of learning those techniques? It's to apply it to music. So the sooner you can apply it to music, the better, right? And again, killing 12 birds with one stone, or 13 birds with 1 stone. Yeah, I mean, you get to practice these techniques in a context where you're already making music, which is inspiring. And also, if your ultimate goal is to make music with these techniques, which I think it is, then you're getting started on that journey even sooner, which I think is great. Because I think sometimes people put up these psychological barriers where they say, I can't start applying this technique to real music until I perfect it in an abstract context away from music. You know, can I just sit there with a metronome and get really good at slides? I mean, I don't know about you, but I'd get bored of practicing that way pretty quickly. And I think instead, see how you can apply it to what you know. And maybe you could combine those ways of practicing. You can practice in the more technical, abstract, removed from music sense, because sometimes that's a great way to hone in on a technique and just like through repetition get good at it. But simultaneously, practice through applying it to real music. When you're practicing improvising or practicing your licks, see if you can alter them to incorporate new techniques you learn. For instance, you know, if let's say you just learned pinch harmonics for the first time, I almost turned my tuner off, but I thought I would just explain it with words. You could apply it to licks you already know and just see how that changes what you already know.
Yeah.
That's kind of fun.
Yeah, totally. I agree. The next step with some of these licks, we were kind of starting to do it, but is seeing if the same lick works on like different chords. I used to do this actually a bunch. I'd learn a lick and then try it over every possible chord and see if I like it or not like it, and I kind of give a little mental checklist.
Yeah.
So I think it would be fun to try this.
Yes.
So one of us will play the lick, the other one will play an F power chord for get through the lick, and then an F sharp power chord and play the lick, and then a G power.
Okay.
Yeah, and then maybe we won't go all the way because that'll take a long time, but maybe we'll go to like C.
Sure. I see what your play is, Kent.
Yes.
Do you want to play the lick and I'll play the chords?
Sure.
Okay. Let me turn this drive off.
Wiggly.
Wiggly sound. Whenever you're ready. Did you? It's kind of fusion-y, right?
Totally. Wow.
Do you like that one, Kenneth? You like anything that sounds outside. So do I.
Great.
Okay, let's move on. Flat, and you're playing an A.
Yeah, weird.
Okay, we're an A. Obviously that sounds good. I'm gonna move it up to B flat. That sounds good.
Yeah.
Lydian.
So yeah, totally. Those are who are hip to that jive, Lydian sounding.
To that jive. What jazz language?
I know, right? Yeah. So, what was I gonna say? Some worked, some didn't. I was playing the same lick all the time. One of my professors when I was in music school, great guitar player, Noel Johnston, who's awesome. He would have us do that, and then he'd play like different chords and be like, "You sound boring. You sound awesome. You sound kind of boring again, and this doesn't work at all." But you wouldn't be changing anything you're doing, and the chords would be moving around, and you would be like, "Huh." And it was kind of a light bulb went off for me of like, "Oh, I don't need to learn like 40,000 licks to match every chord. I need to learn like one lick and know where I can use it." It just makes things like super easy. I'm going to address this really quick. Mark asked, can you get the book in the UK? Absolutely, you can get the book worldwide, I believe, minus pretty much everywhere. Yeah, you should be able to get the book.
Yeah, and until tomorrow, if you get a Guitareo membership, it's 25% off, and you get the book for free. So you can do that in the UK as well.
Yeah.
As well as other countries.
Yeah. Wherever you are, we will find you.
And the UK is one of those places.
Correct. So definitely check out the book if you're interested. This lick, I know some of you are wanting to get the screen grab of it and all of that. It's in there, so you can definitely get the book. So yeah, that's for me. That's like riff learning. That's like I like making the most of a little bit, as opposed to making a little bit out of a lot. Yeah, well said. Yeah. I like that. There you go.
Well, long story short, do you want to try jamming A minor pentatonic over B flat for a second? Just because, I mean, it's a cool sound. And it goes to show, like, you know this scale, A minor pentatonic. And by not learning anything new, you can apply it to a whole new context and it'll sound very interesting and really cool. So,
okay.
How do we want to start? I haven't played anything outside of minor pentatonic. Back to A. I'm playing the same stuff.
Super cool. And like you get a ton of mileage out of it. I don't know. It's just like a really cool way to practice too. And then like starts working in your ear a little bit because like all of a sudden things are a little more interesting sometimes. So it's neat. I find like you went from like Jeff Beck jazz fusion to like you could be playing like with Bruce Springsteen's band or something like very quickly.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the Bruce Springsteen backing band to Jeff Beck pipeline.
Yeah, real common thread for everybody.
Absolutely. That's the natural progression of things. Anyways.
Yeah, somebody put in here, Randy Rhoads use that lick all the time. Totally. I love Randy Rhoads. He definitely does.
What a great guitar player.
Yeah, it's so sad he died so young.
I know. Like sometimes it hits me like every couple of months. I just really get back into Randy Rhoads. And I'm like, damn, that guy was so good.
It's ridiculous.
Like, have you listened to Suicide Solution live? I don't know where they performed it, but they do this section where everyone drops out except for him, and he plays like this classical solo on the electric guitar. It's incredible. Yeah.
I have not seen that. He is a monster player, though.
Totally. Yeah. Anyways.
Amazing. Cool. Okay. But yeah, essentially lick learning. Any lick you learn, use the same steps. Learn the lick, get it under your fingers, try to put it into some music, and then try to move it around, right? So you can...
True. You exposed me by going to the other camera.
Yeah, I lost my train of thought. I don't know.
I'm sorry.
Just learn the licks. You'll be fine. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah,
Anyways.
learn the lick. Try it with some music in probably the suggested, chord it can work over. Add some scales that goes into the lick, and then just try moving it around. See it works. Jam with a buddy or the internet, and then you'll be good. So yeah, and it doesn't have to be complicated. That's the cool thing about it. You can make it nice and simple. In the book, we have like a bajillion licks that you can learn. I think 40-ish, something like that. I can't remember the number. I should know because I put all of them in there.
Is it bajillion or 40, Kent?
It's somewhere in between 20 and a bajillion licks.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's our guarantee.
But yeah. So anyway, all in that book, if you want some inspiration, or maybe you try to figure it out on your own, or maybe a lick that you've been playing for years, maybe you want a new perspective on it. All good stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, something to add to this conversation, we're mentioning a few artists that you're mentioning who have used this lick or variations of it. We mentioned Jimmy Page, Randy Rhoads. You mentioned Bruce Springsteen's backing band, that whole situation, Jeff Beck. We actually prepared a little compilation of this lick being used, or variations of this lick being used in a number of pretty famous rock songs and a Mike Stern song. And yeah, take a listen, see what you think. Sweet.
Yeah, so many uses of it, and they weren't all like verbatim that lick, but they were all around that lick.
Totally
right?
Built around that lick. Yeah, so I hope this sells you on how much mileage you can get out of this lick. But let's look at some variations a little bit further. I mean, we talked about this one. What the heck is going on?
That's sick.
Sick 70s chorus. Like the AC/DC classic. Highway to Hell. Starts with a... Some people earlier in the stream mentioned Chuck Berry. Johnny B. Good uses...
At the same time. Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a variation on similar idea. I mean, Sweet Child of Mine, I'm trying to think... It's sort of descents, like more quickly, adding more flourishes, but that kind of stuff. I mean, that's a pretty classic rock lick that starts with the lick we just taught you. So, yeah, maybe what we should try doing now is jamming and using that lick, but then slowly adapting it over time to become something else.
Sure. Yeah, let's do it. Let's go. More rocky thing going on here. Okay, great. Let's do it.
Woo!
But it can be so fun, right? You just
Totally.
I don't know, you just never want it to stop. And
Never.
Never, ever. And you just, I don't know, it just gives me so much like, I don't know, like how am I gonna get there? How am I gonna get to that lick? How can I change it so it's not boring anymore? Like, I don't know, there's so many options there.
Yeah, so I think, again, to hammer this point home, it really solves that problem that a lot of people face when they're first learning how to improvise or first learning a scale that they could use to improvise, which is, how do I not feel aimless when I'm trying to use it? And this addresses that perfectly, because exactly as you said, it could be something you start your solos with, it could be something you end your solos with, it could be something you start and end your solos with, it could be something you build to as like the high point in your solo. It could be something you use as a motif and you slowly add to it or subtract from it as the solo goes on. So really the possibilities are technically not endless, but a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot. A lot for everybody. I think we should get to some questions. I'm seeing some good ones here.
Totally, yeah.
Members chat.
Let's answer some questions.
Yeah.
We're going to take them from the members section mostly, I think.
Yeah, we'll do our awesome members here. The Asbestos Penguin wrote tips on keeping other strings from ringing out while bending, moving between the notes.
Oh, man. Yeah, good question.
Yeah, so hard to do. It's easy when you do that first bend, that 7 on the G string, when you bend that and go to the 2 5s, so that it's very common to get some weird ringiness, especially you hit the open G, like you hit it by mistake or like...
Yeah.
Or you hear the note go up and back down, For me, one thing that's really helped with that is sometimes it's my picking hand. Sometimes I'll use my picking hand to kind of like mute the string a little bit. That's like a pretty tough technique to do, but it can be helpful, right? So you do your bend, whoops. And then it might be really hard to see on camera, but maybe I'll turn this way. My kind of, I don't know, what's this? That?
Your thumb area?
My extended thumb area will come closer to the strings to kind of mute it. Let me see if I turn, bend. And I can do that to kind of mute it. And I can kind of like get control of the strings that way. Some people might use like fret wraps or like those things that you may have seen guys wrap up there. I know hair scrunchies work for that. I know a lot of the 80s rock guitar players just use those. Something like that can mute the strings. That's like generally in a specific style music, like 80s hair metal, and some of the like harder rock bands and metal bands will have those. And you kind of have to slide them on before you do a lick like that. But that can really help. And then also being really careful with the lifting. After you do the bend, what your ring, in this case ring finger, does after that bend can really make or break what it sounds like right after. So if you got to be careful just to lift up, not get the note ringing out. It might be one of those you just practice that bend. And again, this is where these licks can turn into your practice session, because you go like, oh, this one small thing is really getting me. So you focus on that. And that's the 10-minute practice session. That's like a good 5 minutes of that 10 minutes is just getting that together. Once you get it, then you're good.
I mean, it's just about getting this move. I mean, the learning curve it's there, it's hard. But once you're able to do this, that technique will be applied in so many other situations. But yeah, it's hard. When I'm doing this, I'm thinking exactly about the things you said, using my picking hand to sometimes mute a little. And then over time, those bends just get cleaner the more you do them. Repetition, Over time, things just don't ring out when they're not supposed to. Because there, I could be like, well, what went wrong? Well, I released all the pressure from my fretting hand, so let me try again and not do that. So it's just about troubleshooting. Every time something goes wrong, there's a reason. You just want to try and figure out what that reason is and fix it, which is easier said than done. But put yourself in the mindset of, there's an error here, no big deal. Let me just try and figure out what's causing it and address that.
Totally. Yeah, it's a great way to approach your practicing.
Yeah.
Okay, we answered this one. Jens wrote, there's a bracketed note that's in the lick. Can we get the lick pulled up again one more time? Oh, wow, that was so fast. There's a bracketed note there. right there. There's a note that's in brackets, and that note is in brackets because it's kind of like held over. So you don't re-pick that 7. It just kind of carries over into the next bar. It's more a notation thing than anything. Yeah. So when you see that note in brackets, it just means you're holding the previous note over.
Mm-hmm. It's just one of those rules of writing music out.
Yeah, there's a lot of rules with writing out music.
Oh, there sure are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Cool.
Okay, Mark wrote, I just like to improvise and use my looper mostly around the pentatonic scale.
Yeah,
that's
how
awesome.
I practiced. I mean, even when I was trying to practice over jazz standards and stuff where there's more chord changes, I would still just use my looper to create a chord progression, a chord progression that I want to get comfortable playing over. And I would just try to play over it for as long as possible. They're probably still on my phone. I would sometimes record myself for 10 minutes up to, 30 minutes, just like playing. And then I would listen back to the voice memo and I'd try to hear what I didn't like about my playing, try to hear what I did like about my playing. So that's how you can be really productive while being creative. You be creative, and then either in the moment or later, if you record yourself, you can listen back and be not harsh, but critical, like what did you like? What did you not like? What do you want to hear more of in your playing? What do you want to hear less of in your playing? And you, just like when you record yourself speaking and you might notice little habits you have, like using the word a lot. Sometimes people notice that when listening to themselves speak later. They then could hear that and say, hey, I want to use that word less. But I like that I use the word photosynthesis in my sentence somehow. And then you can be like, I want to use that more in the future.
Nice.
But I don't want to say as much.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the ums are hard to get rid of.
It's true.
Yeah. But yeah, you got to get rid of those musical ums,
Yeah, and you want to incorporate more photosynthesis.
Totally. Yeah, it's a great place to start.
Why did I choose that as the word? I don't know. Anyways, let's move on to the next question.
But yeah, Mark, loopers are great. They're probably the best practice tool. Those of you who aren't hip to loopers yet, pick one up. They're awesome. They're more affordable than ever. They're great. I love using loopers, whether you use online or like whatever,
Sorry, I'm unclear. So you pick the looper up, and then what do you do?
Plug in your instrument into said looper, plug said looper into some sort of amp or your computer, and have fun. Put power into the looper. Generally, they need. And
do you have to make a purchase at some point?
Likely.
Or can you just like go to a store and pick one up? And
I see where we're going with this. I know where this line of questioning is going.
I'm not tapped. I promise. I'm not wearing a wire.
But yeah, loopers are awesome. If you never used one, they're great. Or just use your phone. Voice memo, video recorder. Just get something of you playing and then play over that. It's an awesome way to practice.
Sweet.
Tony wrote 2 questions, actually. When you both played at the opening of the session, how do you know how to play different licks in different positions on the fretboard?
Well, for me, all I did was play A minor pentatonic here. And then I played it up the octave. So anything you can do here, you can do here. It's identical. Only thing you have to look out for is the physical idiosyncrasies of what it feels like to play the guitar down here versus up here. Like here, for example, you have to be careful of the fact that the frets are narrower, that you might run out of frets. So physically, it feels different to play in these 2 positions, but really, in essence, what I'm doing is identical.
Yeah, there's a little more photosynthesis higher up the neck, though.
You're right, Kent.
Yeah.
You're right.
But yeah, I think I just close my eyes and hope for the best when I jump up the fretboard. That's usually...
You don't even look.
Yeah, just hopefully I land in the right spot, and 60% of the time it works 100% of the time. So it's okay. I haven't got fired.
60% of the time it works 100% of the time.
Yeah. Nice. So there you go. Yeah, I haven't been fired from a gig for missing a note. One time my band looked at me. I missed the last 2 notes of Don't Stop Believing, that solo.
Yikes.
Yeah, it's high.
Da-da-da, ba-ba.
Yeah.
What did you play instead?
I just didn't get the bend.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Like you just missed it completely, or
Totally.
it was out of
Because
tune?
no, it was a little everything, but yeah,
Oh,
it was.
okay.
It only happened once because I had a 21 fret guitar at the time, and to get up to you have to get way up there.
Right.
That very hard to get in the spur of the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, very hard. Way up there, real squeaky.
It's
anyway,
easy to miss.
Yes, so I missed it one time. That was part of the 40% where it worked 0% of the time. So
40% of the time it works 0% of the time, and 60% of the time it works 100% of the time.
Correct. Yeah. So
Nice.
yeah. So anyway, but no, what Ayla said is true. Everything you play down, if you go 12 frets up, count up 12, you can play the same thing, and it'll sound just fine.
Yeah.
All right, and then the second part of that question was, when you are learning a lick, would you play them without distortion? Because we were pretty distorted the whole time.
Yeah, we were. I think it's a good idea. What's interesting, though, is I remember having this interesting discussion with a player way back in the day who's arguing that it's harder to play clean with distortion, which is true. So you could then argue that playing with distortion and playing it cleanly with distortion could be a unique challenge in and of itself. But yeah, I mean, it's good to play without distortion too, to just make sure you can hear exactly what it is you're playing. So I'm going back and forth, and I think the reason is there's a valid argument for both probably, and you might want to try both. Maybe when you learn a lick, try playing it clean a little bit, try playing it with some effects on it, especially overdrive. Go back and forth and see if you can play it cleanly both ways. Because ideally, you can play cleanly both with and without overdrive.
Yeah, I used to think that if you could play it clean, you can play it with distortion. But that's not always the case. I think there's a different touch you need when you have like a real distorted guitar tone.
Totally.
So it's not always a one-to-one thing. Like Ayla said, I think if you try essentially like just do both is good. I think when I learn a lick, I think the genre will kind of dictate the guitar tone I'm using. So if I'm learning like an Eddie Van Halen lick, likely if I get my guitar sounding closer to that Van Halen sound, like more distortion or maybe a phaser or like whatever, then I might feel more inspired to learn that lick. Usually distortion hides the mistakes. So sometimes kids learn some licks with distortion on, just cover up those kind of oopsie moments. But it works for a lot of people. But there is something to be said about learning a lick clean and knowing how to execute it without it. And if you play acoustic guitar, you really have I guess you plug your acoustic to a distortion pedal. But generally you're playing clean. I think any lick can probably work with either. As far as your initial learning, I think kind of fit it in with whatever genre it is. So you're learning John Mayer lick, you probably don't want like heavy metal distortion on.
Yeah, but if I'm learning. You basically already said this, but to make it clear, if I'm learning a Van Halen lick, I'm probably not going to play it clean first. I'm probably going to set up my tone and then learn it, just because it's more inspiring and more fun that way. Like trying to play. It's okay, but like if I'm trying to make that sound like Eruption, it's not so fun. I'd rather play that with some overdrive and delay and flanger and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so I think you just kind of match the style that you're going for and you'll be good. In the YouTube comments, I saw somebody talking about our plants probably enjoying all the photosynthesis jokes right now.
Absolutely.
Is
this even a real plant?
I'm not sure. Nobody knows. There's plants.
I'm sure at least one of the plants in this room is real. No doubt.
Yeah. So... wah and distortion even better together. I agree.
That's cool. Oh, someone said Freebird. Sorry, one sec. That's also in A minor. No, is it G minor?
G minor.
It's G minor. See, I played the opening of Freebird, and then I played the lick we just learned. See that? See that? I hope that made our point.
He kind of... Does he do that lick? He doesn't do it.
He does variations. I mean, it's two guitar players, right?
Yeah.
There's that kind of stuff, and then there's like...
He's got the
that kind of stuff.
Weedlies.
Widdly. Oh, yeah, that's it.
That's in there. He does that in there. No.
It's all pentatonic, though, basically.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's as free as a bird. Yeah. So I don't think it is in that solo, but all pentatonic-y stuff. Yeah. There you go. That's Freebird. My old rule was if somebody wanted Freebird, it would be $100. In this case, if you sign up for a Guitareo membership, maybe we'll play Freebird. Maybe that's going to be the
new
online
thing.
equivalent.
We'll personally play Freebird for you, and in any possible blank spot in the lyrics, we'll fill it in with your name.
Perfect. Cool. Let me see if we got any more questions here. I think we got through all of the member questions, which is awesome. Yeah. Somebody wrote, math is probably not my strong suit. I focused on music in school, I guess.
I mean, for music, all you really need is a strong understanding of how to count to 7. Or I guess 12 if you want to get all the chromatic notes.
I just count to 4 over and over again.
Over again.
1, 2. Everything's a 2 or a 3. Everything can be divided to 2 or 3. That's how my brain works. 7's hard. 7 messes you up. 7, because 7's got 2.
Well,
I'm going on a rant here. 7's got 2 syllables in it.
7.
So everybody counts it weird. They go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right?
Oh, so then they accidentally consume 2 beats with the word 7. But it used to be 7.
Yeah.
Cool.
In school, we used to use sev.
Sev.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
7. 8. But yeah, 7. That's my gripe with 7. It's a great number, but a little odd.
Speaking of which, we have to jam out. Why don't we jam in 7?
Okay.
Do you want to start the riff, or do you want me to start the riff?
Go for it.
Is that 7?
Yep.
successful. Thank you so much for watching, everyone.
Thanks, everybody,
Have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful day.
See you around.